Now, one of the things that I wanted to just mention is that tonight we are here to support the great work of HARO. And throughout this evening, we have a wonderful, wonderful program put together for you that will really help you get better understanding about what HARO is doing, and also about some of the work that it plans to do. For most of you know that this particular organization is one that is doing humanitarian work and relief work in Africa and around the world, and it's really, really important work in terms of helping people provide adequate food and housing and just basically essential needs. And so particularly tonight, the proceeds from this event is really going to be dedicated towards helping to build an orphanage for children that have been ravaged by famine and other kinds of catastrophes that have been happening in East Africa. And so it's with your support tonight that we will be able to move that whole program along. So the speakers throughout the night will tell you more about this, about HARO. They'll talk to you more about what some of the needs are and how HARO is addressing those particular needs. Also, though, before we get into the program, I wanted to take a moment to thank our sponsors for this particular event, because without their support, we would not have been able to put this together. And particularly, I'd like to, all of the sponsors are listed in the program so that you can see that, but I'd like to give a special thanks to our platinum level sponsors. And the parent company of the platinum level sponsors is Provide Commerce, and it has subsidiaries that we're all probably very familiar with, Pro Flowers, Red Envelope, PersonalCreations.com, Sherry's Berries, Cherry Moon Farms, and Pro Plants. So the warm support and generous support that that organization has given us really helped us to really put this event together. I also would like to thank, as you look through the program, the other sponsors, and that at the gold level, we have listed on the pages the silver level, and then also the bronze level. And all of those sponsors and partners have really been vital in supporting this event and allowing us to really be able to put this together. So again, I'd like to thank you so much for that support and working this through. Okay, so I'd like to then, with that background information, I'd like to get right into the program. And to start us off, I would like to introduce to you Hassan Ali Abdullah, and he is going to talk to us about HARO USA. So let's give a warm welcome to Hassan.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. I begin in the name of Allah, the most gracious and most merciful. So my name is Hassan Abdinur, and a little bit about myself. I'm a bio major at San Diego State University. I'm also involved with the Muslim Student Association at San Diego State. If you guys look at the bio, I have by far the shortest bio, so I haven't done anything in my life, so hopefully I'll do something with my life. I've been volunteering with HARO ever since its inception, since I was in high school. I want to begin by thanking all of you for attending, our esteemed guests, for tonight's event. I'm truly honored to be speaking before all of you. So I was asked to come up and speak about HARO a little bit, but before we jump into that, I want to kind of start off with a quote by the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. He was quoted to say in the tradition that none of you truly believe until you love for your brother what you love for yourself. Meaning that if you want yourself to be in a good situation, live in relative security, have something to eat, have something to wear, then you have to internalize this for your brother. Not just Muslims or people from that side of the world, but for all humanity. The revival of the true human consciousness. My father and the director of the Humanitarian African Relief Organization took this message of our Prophet, peace be upon him, to heart. Born and raised in Somalia, my father has worked, taught, and traveled extensively throughout the Horn of Africa during his youth. He later immigrated to the United States in the late 1980s. He worked and began raising a family here in San Diego. My father has also been active in the early Somali community here in San Diego. Although living here in the States, my father still had a strong connection back home. The situation in the Horn of Africa was dire. It was a dire one, especially in Somalia. The country was plunged in long-standing civil and tribal strife, political instability, and a host of other problems. Many Somalis were losing their lives, getting harmed, displaced, and most of the time being reduced to abject poverty. My father couldn't stand idle with this situation going on in Somalia. With the spirit of loving for your brother what you love for yourself, my father, along with other fellow concerned Somali Americans, began HARO, the Humanitarian African Relief Organization. HARO is a non-profit charitable organization dedicated to providing humanitarian relief throughout the Horn of Africa. Our mission is to empower the needy and the indigent to make informed and healthy choices to counter the social and economic problems that are endemic in Somalia and East Africa. By presenting helpful awareness, effective education, and assistance in the form of food, shelter, and medicine. HARO's vision is to help foster an environment which hunger, malnutrition, illiteracy, pernicious diseases become unknown to the people of Africa who otherwise lack the necessary resources to prevent such malignant problems. Some of the projects of HARO include general relief, the Udhiyah, which is a sacrifice for the Eid al-Adha, which is a Muslim holiday, clothes, shoes, iftar, food to break the fast during the holy month of Ramadan, sponsoring orphans, and providing clean water through the digging of wells. So what makes HARO different from any other relief organization? What makes HARO unique is the meticulous effort that is taken to make sure every project and program is done correctly and efficiently. My father, Ali Abdul Noor, and his team take it upon themselves to see each mission from A to Z, from inception to completion, to make sure the aid, whatever it may be, makes it to those who are in need of it. What also makes HARO unique is its ability to work on the grassroots level, recruiting those on the ground, and to make sure that HARO is sensitive to the needs and concerns of the indigent people, as you guys can see on the slides. My father went to Somalia multiple times to personally make sure that the aid was getting to the right people. Sometimes the risk of going to Somalia was great. Somalia still is, quote unquote, the most dangerous place on earth. During the early days of the famine, HARO was one of the few relief organizations willing to go to the hardest hit locations, even though the risk of losing one's life was great. The sacrifices made by my father and the HARO team was truly great, spending sometimes 6 months out of the year in Somalia. But we must not forget the sacrifices of the families, sometimes questioning the reasons behind putting themselves in danger. Especially for me, thinking, what would I do if something happened to my father? But my father always reassured us that what he was doing, and the goals of HARO we're pursuing were much bigger than our petty beliefs. That what he was doing was far greater than our need for just one single person. To conclude, I want to say how proud I am of HARO and of my father for being courageous and taking the initiative to create a difference and be in service to individuals. I again want to thank you guys for those who are in attendance tonight and all the hardworking volunteers. If you guys do see volunteers, thank them, because I know personally events like these are really, really hard to set up. Again, thank you guys and have a great night.
We have the pleasure tonight of having two keynote addresses. And our first keynote address is going to be given by Bob Montgomery. Bob is the executive director of the IRC and has been with that organization for over 36 years. Bob's got a master's degree in social work from Temple University and has been partially accredited by the Board of Immigration Appeals to represent immigrants before the Department of Homeland Security. Let's give a warm welcome to Bob Montgomery.
Good evening. It's nice to see so many of my friends here tonight. Many of them, like my friend Ali Haji, I met them at the airport. Now, it's not all good, because I had a lot more hair and a darker beard before I met the Somalis, I gotta tell you. But really, it's good to see you all tonight. Another thing I need now that I met the Somalis is glasses. For more than 2 decades, it has been my honor and privilege to assist Somali refugees to rebuild their lives with dignity in a safe and secure environment. Although the Somalis have overcome numerous challenges, they continue to succeed in their new homeland. This is evidenced by the academic success of their children, the launching of numerous Somali-owned businesses, and the advent of several effective grassroots organizations that provide direct assistance to their own Somali community members. But perhaps one of the most compelling successes in the Somali community is the founding of the humanitarian African relief organization, HARO, in 2007. By my good friend, Ali Haji Abdi Noor. I say this because HARO has focused their efforts on assisting those Somalis that continue to struggle back home in East Africa through violent conflict, drought, and famine. By the summer of 2011, it was clear that East Africa was facing the worst drought in 60 years. For more than 5 years, the rainfall had been 30% less than normal. Crops failed, livestock died, forcing many Somalis to flee their land in an effort to find refuge in either Mogadishu or in neighboring countries like Kenya or Ethiopia. As with most refugee exoduses, those fleeing were predominantly women and children, because the majority of men remained behind to protect their land. During the summer of 2011, more than 1,200 refugees from Somalia arrived each day to the teeming Dadaab refugee complex in Kenya. With a population close to 500,000 refugees, 80% were women and children. In addition, between June and November of 2011, more than 100,000 Somali internally displaced persons sought refuge in the already crowded Mogadishu, whose population has swelled in recent years due to civil unrest throughout the country. With more than 13 million Somalis impacted by the drought, the United Nations declared a famine in July of 2011 in several regions of Somalia. Now, when the UN declares a famine, it means that more than 30% of the children are malnourished. UN officials estimated that a Somali child died every 6 minutes due to malnutrition. Thus, the humanitarian crisis in Somalia came to be known in the humanitarian community as the children's famine. As the drought and famine claimed more lives, it was clear that Somalia required a humanitarian intervention on a global scale. This life-saving aid was delayed due to the menacing presence and threats from extremist groups operating inside Somalia. They created a hostile environment that made it dangerous for humanitarian relief organizations like the IRC to safely operate in Somalia, especially the capital city of Mogadishu. And in some cases, these same extremist groups blocked aid from entering the country. Yet HARO, through their connections and the personal courage and convictions of their leadership, entered Mogadishu and began dispensing vital assistance to suffering Somalis, often well ahead of some larger and better resourced international NGOs. In August of 2011, Al-Shabaab suddenly withdrew from Mogadishu. This allowed many international aid organizations to enter Mogadishu and join organizations like HARO in providing vital assistance to the suffering Somali people, especially women and children, who, as I mentioned earlier, are the ones who often suffer the greatest. Since that dire period, the situation in East Africa has improved ever so slightly. The UN called off the famine in January of 2012, but cautioned that the threat of drought remained. In addition, more aid agencies entered Somalia to provide life-saving assistance. Yet the vast impact of the drought and famine will require a long-term commitment to adequately address the health and wellness needs of the Somali population. In the midst of this humanitarian disaster, rays of optimism exist. In September, a new Somali president was elected, and Al-Shabaab and other extremist groups appear to have been marginalized, giving hope to the Somali people. With a more secure environment, aid groups like HARO and the IRC are able to operate more effectively and can more easily address the needs of people in areas that were previously inaccessible. It has also created new opportunities for the Somali diaspora to assist in the rebuilding of the country. I would like to take a minute now to talk about the Somali diaspora and their role in rebuilding Somalia. The Somali diaspora is known as the missing million. They are spread throughout the globe, including Kenya, Yemen, the UK, the Netherlands, Canada, and the United States, with growing populations in Malaysia and Australia. The diaspora is responsible for providing remittances to family members living in Somalia, amounting to more than $1 billion per year, which makes up 85% of Somalia's gross domestic product. In addition, we see Somalia benefiting from the intellectual remittances from the diaspora. This includes members of the diaspora becoming highly visible in the state institutions of Somalia, including Somaliland and Puntland. They occupy leadership positions in political parties, the cabinet, parliament, and civil service. And more recently, we see members of the diaspora investing in Somalia by establishing businesses or providing the capital for small business starts inside the country. It is estimated that the diaspora has provided 80% of the capital for small and medium-sized enterprises. And finally, we know that the diaspora generously responded to the humanitarian crisis of 2011 by remitting needed dollars directly to desperate family members or via humanitarian relief organizations like HARO. The role of the diaspora is so important that many international organizations currently researching ways that they can involve the diaspora in their work inside Somalia, including the IRC. Earlier this year, IRC conducted focus groups with the San Diego Somali community in an effort to gauge local interest while seeking out ideas for partnerships. Clearly, in the coming year, IRC will be increasing its humanitarian and post-conflict development activities inside Somalia and looking for ways to involve the diaspora in our efforts. I would like to conclude my remarks tonight by speaking a bit more about our host tonight, HARO. More than 20 years ago, when I was a case manager at the IRC San Diego, I first met Ali Haji and his family when they arrived to San Diego as refugees. Over the years, I've witnessed with great satisfaction as Ali Haji and his family strived and succeeded in their adopted homeland. But Ali Haji never forgot his roots, and in 2007, he approached me and asked that IRC support his efforts to start a nonprofit organization whose mission was to address the needs of those suffering in East Africa. Over the years, Ali Haji has kept me informed of HARO's growth and progress, most recently regarding their efforts during and after the drought and famine of 2011. Like many nonprofits, a major challenge for HARO is to secure sufficient resources to enable them to fulfill their mission and continue their life-saving work in the Horn of Africa. As mentioned earlier, a humanitarian crisis, like the drought and famine, takes its biggest toll on refugee women and children. Tragically, the drought and famine has left hundreds of children displaced. Many have lost their parents and are now orphans. For that reason, it is HARO's goal this year to establish an orphanage in Somalia to provide a home and hope for these displaced children. Earlier, I discussed the role of the diaspora in addressing the vast needs in Somalia. A perfect example of this role is HARO. They are an organization founded by members of the Somali diaspora, largely supported by the Somali diaspora, to assist those Somalis back home. So tonight, I ask you to generously support HARO's efforts. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob. One of the points that Bob made struck me, and it really reminded me about how precious also our children are to us. And our children and our youth are really precious gifts that we really are all privileged to be able to have and introduced to us. And so HARO, thinking about that, wanted to make sure that on the program that we had space for the voice of our young people as well. And so what I'm going to like to do now is invite up to the podium Muhammad Ali. And Muhammad is a young, talented poet, and he is going to share with us one of his works. So let's give a warm welcome to Muhammad Ali.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm honored here to share a poem that I wrote. And then this poem is not like any other poem. This poem needs an introduction, right? But don't worry, I got you. I'll hit you up with the poem. I'll perform it. But before, I want you guys, I want to open your hearts a little bit more wider so the poem can easily come in. And with this introduction, I'm going to say a little story, a little short story. There's this boy, right? He's a little boy. He's at the beach, right? So the beach is filtered and filtered with starfishes. Starfishes there, starfishes here, starfishes everywhere. And starfishes, they're slow. They need the water to breathe, right? So they're just on the sand, just getting ready to die. And so like without any hope, they're just laying there, getting ready to die because they need the water to breathe in, and they won't make it because they're slow. So this boy, he's walking at the beach, right? He's walking, and he bends down, grabs a starfish, and he throws it into the water. And then he walks a little bit more, and he bends down and gets another starfish, and he throws it into the water. And then his father comes out. His father's like, "Son, why are you wasting your time? There's so many starfishes. You won't finish them all up. Why don't you just come inside? Because it's not going to make any difference. Because there's so many starfishes." So the boy looked at his dad, And he looked at his dad, and then he bent down and he grabbed a starfish and he threw it into the water, and he said, "I made a difference for that one." Right? And that's the introduction for this poem, so I'm gonna start right now. The fear is on the face while the fear is on the fence. Their life is in danger, their life is intense. Their parents aren't there for their presence. Even with themselves, they aren't acquaintance. Everybody turns away without any sense, and we go away from them, not going near their distance. But HARO's doing the job where their life and our life becomes balanced. HARO's an organization, and we should give them props for their dedication. Because they see something that we don't see. They see that these kids are the new generation, that we all are God's creation. Take them out of devastation and make life as their recreation. As soon as the sun lays sleeping beneath the blankets of the night, they still don't know the difference between darkness and light. Every day they say tomorrow's gonna be tight, but deep in their heart they know for food they have to fight. So their sorrow takes flight. They have no helper by their side. They have no helper by their side. They have no helper by their side. They say life is cruel and mean because it bites. They have not understood life yet, not quite. They have not understood life yet, not quite. It's our job for them to see how life is so bright, because they go looking for life as soon as they see the white thread of light. For them we gotta help and show. I can't believe we didn't know. Once again, props to HARO. With all their dedication, now there's a glow. They help the orphans not go solo. When they are there, the hearts of the orphans never go so low. Their self-esteem is high, not basic or below. We should all race to go help these orphans, fast like a bullet or an arrow. So ready, set, go. Don't wait, help them today, don't wait for tomorrow. Time has come to see. Time has come to see, for our heart is made out of love instead of being hollow. HARO puts love in the heart of these kids instead of being sorrow. For help, because for you righteousness will follow. Not helping these kids, we should all feel pitiful. I'm not just speaking lyrical, but from the heart and literal. Our houses are built while theirs are ramshackled. Our houses are built while theirs are ramshackled. HARO done so much, and that's wonderful. But it's time for every one of us to step in and be physical. I hope these words have touched each one of us, because each orphan deserves happiness, and that's a plus. So show your power of kindness, because helping is flawless. And thank you very much, because I'm honored to share this.
Now it's time for our second keynote speaker, who is Mr. Ron Ostenbauer. And Ron holds a bachelor's degree from Mankato State University and has been involved in nonprofits for over 30 years. He has focused the latter part of his career on humanitarian nonprofits. Now, he currently lives in southern Minnesota and has traveled a great distance to be here with us tonight. So, and I know that I'm not quite sure what the weather is like in Minnesota right now, but it's usually a lot colder than it is here. So let's give a warm California welcome to Ron.
Thank you. We actually missed a freezing rainstorm in Minnesota, so we were glad to be in California for the last couple of days. But when Bertina called for me to come in and speak a little bit about Kids Against Hunger, we talked a little bit about the nonprofit experience, and as he said, I've been in nonprofit for over 30 years, and hats off to people like Allie that see the need and really take that upon themselves to get other people excited and get this vision going and moving forward. Kids Against Hunger is of a similar person. Hurricane Fifi devastated the Honduras in 1974, and a Minnesota businessman named Richard Proudfit went to Honduras to literally help rebuild the country. While he was there, he saw a tremendous amount of starving children and took it upon himself that his life's goal was going to be to feed the starving children of the world. So Richard came back to Minnesota, and he was known as Mr. Tootsie because he bought tons of Tootsie Rolls. So his first effort at feeding the children in Honduras was to go back with Tootsie Rolls and Twinkies and feed the kids, which of course their systems couldn't handle, and they became very, very ill. So he came back from that experience saying, I really literally have to figure out how to feed the world's hungry. And he worked with scientists from General Mills, Cargill, Archer Daniel Midland, and Pillsbury to develop what I have in my hand here is known as a rice casserole. And once he developed this, it became, how do I package this and give this to the world's hungry? And what this involves, and you're seeing some stuff that's going on here in the background, we're not playing the video, but the scientists developed what we call a mineral powder. It's a chicken-based vitamin that has 21 essential vitamins necessary for a human body to continue growth and sustain itself. He put in a teaspoon basically of dried vegetables, and then a cup of fortified soy, which has another 9 vitamins and nutrients in it, and the world's most recognized food, rice. And so he got this formula put together, and then he had to figure out, well, now how do I get this to feed the world's hungry? Started an organization called Feed My Starving Children, and was trying to put this all together, and kids kept coming up and saying, hey, let us help, let us help. And so he kept expanding. It was a Minnesota-based nonprofit, but soon figured out that in order to feed the world's hungry, he needed to go national. And so set up a system of satellites to literally help package food. And today, Kids Against Hunger packages about 40 million meals a year that are shipped to over 60 different countries and also used in the U.S. On any given day, we're packaging 110,000 meals that are actually put together by volunteers. But one of the interesting things, and I'm sure Ali can share stories with you of his things in Somalia, Richard is really an unfearing type kind of a guy. He told me the story one time of going into Liberia when the country was at war. He landed in the country and basically asked the people to take him to the starving children. So he was taken to a hospital and saw 5 kids on the last breath of life with distended bellies, grasping for air. So he ran and mixed up his food, he fed it to them, and he saved 4 of the 5 children. 6 months later, the doctor from that hospital called him back and said, I no longer need to actually do medicine. And he goes, what do you mean you don't want to do medicine? He goes, well, the food has become so important that the people are healthy and they no longer need to see the doctor. So he literally took that and really expanded with Kids Against Hunger. So what we're hoping to do here tonight is really develop a long-standing relationship with HARO. Our goal is to feed the world's hungry and to actually get that food to the people that need it to help them survive. This little bag costs $1.38. It has 6 cups of food in it. All an individual needs to do is eat 1 cup to grow and mature and sustain themselves for life. And this is actually Richard right here. Richard turns 84 this week. He had a stroke 12 years ago where he lost his speech, so he totally had to relearn how to speak. But his goal every day, and he works 7 days a week, is I'm going to feed the world's hungry. To him, that means we need to produce 1 billion meals a day, which we're hoping to do and to grow. And the way Kids Against Hunger actually works is we enlist what we call satellites. So we're in 26 states right now. Satellites go out and help people get involved and package the food, and then those satellites can decide if they want the food to go to the Horn of Africa. We work with them to get to the Horn of Africa. The Army and the Navy ship our food for free. The Red Cross of the Navy literally goes all the way up and down around the Horn of Africa, and we can ship food for them as well. So it's a story of how one person's vision and one person's commitment has employed a lot of people and got a lot of people engaged in helping feed the world's hunger. And Richard comes into my office every day and goes, I don't have long left on this earth and I need to feed the world's children. And I said, you know what, Richard? You're setting up the system to actually do that. And that's the only thing that Kids Against Hunger does. Packages a rice casserole to get out to feed the world's hungry. And one thing I always like to end some of my speeches with is a kind of a saying that I think is really important for tonight. And it goes like this. It is not the poor who are bankrupt. It is you and I who see a need, have the difference to make change, and we look the other way. And I want to congratulate you all for being here tonight because you're not looking the other way. You're helping HARO to raise money to serve those people that can't help themselves, and I think that's very, very important, and you're to be commended for that. And you can get involved with Kids Against Hunger in one of three ways. We have satellites in California. You can organize packing events, and that usually involves raising some money. We charge 23 cents a meal, and there's 6 meals in here, so a bag is like $1.38. We ask the groups to help raise the money to actually buy the product, and that $1.38 includes the bag, the food, and everything else. If you work for a corporation that is looking for a nonprofit charitable event, Kids Against Hunger is a great opportunity to get every employee involved, make them feel like they've done good, and then help the world's needy, including the local economy. Or you can also help start a satellite. So those are a lot of different ways that you can get involved in Kids Against Hunger. And I've been impressed. Fortina, thank you for bringing us in, taking us to a great Mediterranean meal that we ate a lot of during the day. And also just the opportunity to meet your community and figure out ways that we can help. Our goal literally is to feed the world's hunger. We ship to 60 different countries. We just need to beef up the production of food so that we can literally help and get more food to the people that are starving in Somalia. So thank you, and thank you, Ali, for what you do.
We'd like to do another poetry reading. And I'm going to ask Ron Britton if you would come forward now and do this poetry reading. Ron?
Ron. Yes.
Somaliye tonso iskutir sadaye Hazratin tagdaran koy tagera wadiye Wahalo koyayo ilmadriya qurataye Odakeni yo hodanan dibara hawaye
And I heard this little chant that I used to have, and so I want to do a little chant, then I'll go into the poem. I'm a poet and author and teacher and mentor, so I love what I do. It goes like this. Somalia, Somalia, we love you. Somalia, Somalia, we love you. And the second part goes like this. Somalia, Somalia, we pray for you. Somalia, Somalia, we pray for you. May God bless the hands of the heroes of HARO. May God bless the hands of the heroes of HARO, for they go beyond the call of duty to heal a broken humanity in Somalia. People struck by hard times of famine, annihilation, by the spirit of indifference. Let us rise and make change and rearrange the plot of a beautiful people, which seems like hard times in other societies seem to have forgotten. And let the voice of mercy cry until the heavens begin to move with great passion and empathy for a people chosen before time, to make history through their triumph over tragedy. But we must remember the faces of Somalia's orphan children who go without basic needs. We have a mandate to help them. And let us speak with one voice until the mountains bow with relief and the sea part with amnesty to a dry land so it can grow fruitfully with life. We can join forces with HARO of HARO to initiate a campaign to bring life changes to our sister country in need of a helping hand, which is the plan of God. But we first must realize that it's time to take a stand and be counted. Having made history by lending a hand, but giving a hand up. The heroes of HARO are those who not only heard the cry, but acted on the needs that our people are in dire distress. They are our people, your people, my people, God's people. We cannot stand idly by and do nothing. The heroes of HARO have risen to the occasion by putting words into action, by putting action into motion, by putting motion to work for the greater cause of humanity. Will the true humanitarians stand up and be counted? Will the volunteers please stand up and be counted? Would you give them a hand? These are the real heroes of HARO. And I want to read this one quote by a famous man, the name of James Allen. Mind is master powerful that molds and makes. Man is mind and evermore he takes. Tools on thoughts, shaping what they will. Be it 1,000 joys or 1,000 ills. He thinks in secret it comes to pass. His environment is but his looking glass. And today we can see the vision of HARO. This great man here taking the chance and taking the courage to do something about an opportunity that has been presented to him. May God bless you. Thank you.
So at this point, we really would like to give a warm, warm welcome to the Imam Taha Hassan.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. My dear respected brothers and sisters, I greet you with the greeting of peace, the greeting of Islam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace be with you all. It's a real pleasure and privilege to be here today. MashaAllah. And it's a real opportunity to show our gratitude, our thankfulness to Almighty God for whatever He has blessed us with. It's amazing how we take things for granted in our lives. Everything. Whether it's the food that we have on our tables, the roof we have over our heads, the clothes we have covering our bodies, the safety and the security that we are blessed with, community members like this that we enjoy being with. It's amazing how we take everything for granted until we are reminded, until we come to such gatherings and to see the pictures of people around the world and to recognize the suffering that people are facing. So let's be thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for whatever He has granted us in this life, for every single ni'mah, blessing that He has given us in this life. My dear brothers and sisters, today I see how the charitable work and this noble cause is universal. When you see people from all walks of life, different faiths, different cultures, different ethnicities, coming all together for one cause, for a noble cause, for providing help and assistance to people who are in need of this help and assistance. In our faith as Muslims, in our scripture, in the Quran, and in the prophetic tradition of our beloved Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, there are countless texts urging us, showing us, guiding us, and telling us the excellence and the virtue of coming from out of our comfort zone and stretching out our hands, extending our hands to help those who are in need of our help. And by the way, when we do this, when we extend our hands to help other people, to feed the hungry, and to shelter the homeless, and to comfort the people who are facing these types of hardship in their lives, we are not doing a favor to anyone. We are just doing our own responsibility. Because we will be held accountable. This is our faith. We will be held accountable on the day of judgment for every single ni'mah, blessing Allah has given us, and we have failed to share it with others. وَأَمَّا بِنِعْمَةِ رَبِّكَ فَحَدِّثْ. In a very nice hadith of our beloved Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he said, Al-khalqu iyalullah. Creatures, human beings, are the dependents of God. أَحَبُّهُمْ إِلَى اللَّهِ أَنْفَعُهُمْ لِعِيَالِهِ. The most beloved ones to God are those who benefit others. So if you want to be closer to God, if you want to get the pleasure of your Lord, then take care of the dependence of God. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has tested us in this life. And one of the means and ways of this test is giving us, overwhelming us with these blessings, and to see whether we are going to be selfish and keep everything for ourselves and ignore others, or we are going to understand our mission in this life, which is to share these blessings and these ni'am and these favors with those who are in need. This is a great opportunity, especially when it comes to taking care of the orphans. You know, in a very well-known short surah in the Quran, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us two of the signs of the faithless people. Who is the faithless? أَرَأَيْتَ الَّذِي يُكَذِّبُ بِالدِّينِ. Have you seen the one who is faithless, who doesn't believe in the faith? What are the two signs? فَذَلِكَ الَّذِي يَدُعُ الْيَتِيمِ. It's he or she, the one who is harsh with the orphan, who failed to be compassionate with the orphan. And the second sign, فَذَلِكَ الَّذِي يَدُعُ الْيَتِيمِ وَلَا يَحُضُّ عَلَى طَعَامِ الْمِسْكِينِ. And the one who does not urge others to feed the one who is hungry. These are the two signs of the faithless person. I don't want to be among this category of people. I want to be a faithful person. So I urge tonight myself and everyone here, just to do your best. Allah knows our intentions. Allah knows our ability. Just try your best. Do whatever you can to bring the smile, to bring the hope to those children, those women, those people who are suffering in the Horn of Africa. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of you. Bless your families. Bless the HARO organization. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless your effort. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help you and keep helping you to achieve your goal in the best way possible. Thank you so much. Wassalamu alaikum.
We're going to, next on the program, we're going to give you some, a little entertainment. One of the things that lifts the heart is laughter. And so we are going to ask Abdi Rahman Ahmed to come forward. He's going to present a short comedy skit. But this comedy skit is going to take you back to East Africa. And it's going to be presented in a native language. So some of you who don't speak the language will need to get someone to translate for you while we're going through this. But this will be a wonderful opportunity to enjoy a little levity. And so we'll ask them to come forward now. Thank you.
عبدو ها يورن محيسا
أنا أبغى بغرت شاطئين يا رب حسن حق رباتي بإيش هيالو عليك ممكن نبلمي من عم إيش هنقول بلمي وحنروح يعرف إننا بقول هي مات والله كان أقول الو أيه مري ورا ورا يدي كودا ورا هاي بدي وهذا الرستين والله والله بروح بدي بل يورني هو يورن مقالدي يورن والله والله بدي صراحة ليه وقت مقالدي واحد بدي بكتب بيه مقالدي وقت والله البحر مقالدي بدي أسوي والله البحر وفن بعد تبان لا وفن أديك شيشة بتقن ما شيشة هاي إبراهيم هاي إبراهيم أنا أقول شيء شيشة أو قبليها أوي رجيها أوي ولا صرف ديها ولا صرف ديها أيه سوشيتو أيه ولا سهر فريس أيه أيه يا أبو تقال على سوا فوفايا مثلا أيه وحكى هذا الشيء ترى مرتبطة هذا بس كنت فاهميه يا فاهم كنت فاهمه غير ما يواسس ولا سوسماي بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وربنا سوي فاهميه ما تبان بليون علي محاجة أنا كل نيو الصومالي هيو نيو دم الصومالي رسلي الكل يوم ويدك وأبغى أقوم معك صح يا دام أقوم معك سوق النوبي كوينة وسافرين نبوي ربي ونرسل عثمان قاوية ومركب السلامنا أنتوا سأسكتوا وستح يسويه وكل يبيون هو I'm the king of the city وking of سكرات السلوك اللي حاجات نصور كده معايا سجال كانوا بيقولوا وربنا العايزة ما يجي كده معايا يبوي يجي كده معايا
روحوا ليه
ما قرأت دمر كينا أنت أي سلالين والشرع بقى وحنسي والرجل وانا سمعنا أما هو ما كسر هنا صار أي قشران بحل ومسجيني ما سكايا الله فالسماء وحبران وهو لو دمس لا يرقص كلامك قبل صدق لي لما راو كلامك قبل يسي ما حق صدق ده ولا سي بقول كيف سيد سنجل مادر هو يسرت يا سكا هو سيجي بس انا ساعه هو اصبح بيلاش هو marka waxa weey niman iyo waxa weeyeen بيلاش waxa ugu goosana waa hada idin warama telefoon samuud maqalka telefoonka waa may bar hada idin warama hallo dhulkii baa kay marka lacag wadiin waa arabtaan waa dadkii oo baabasan oo rasbaasan oo bisi alwaaga liboy soo garmay adiga waaga liboy soo maraysan safar kale xasuusin si aad waa keenay sidii ma dadku weeyeen حسوا عطي واحد صار كله ورحنا حسوسين دوايا بدون هنا عندنا اسملان مسكين نفات وكذا وفين رجل سموه كوفاريسيه فين سرباتي اوكي ده باباسيه وحير marka maxaa tahay waraaqaha waxa weey waa weydin badan mar meelaha maray oo haro wad garay Soomaa haro meesha waan maqal haro meelaha ay ugu shiraayo waan maqal laakiin waxay garay هذا بيتك ولا سكتة بيتك أنا ضحى سحلا مرة يا رامي صنقعها وقرابتي يو محاولة هدوة جات فريش عطوا مقالدية أي برقاء أنا ورقنا له أوكي أي واحد يقرأ يا والله واحد يا والله وقرأ دوتا يا والله في شيء هذا واحد لا يا والله وحلو هذا المهني الرفاصة السيفية الجزيرة من قصة كاركة تدخل بحلوة
نية وحبو إلا سقاشك من باعون نلوها يا عقون وحنا عقون تموي يا يا
ولي لا تصدقوا
نتذكر
ما أنا بقول ولي وقت كده والله ده يسوي يجي مكر الحمد لله يسلمك
نتذكر ولا عقون معنا قاعد نقول لك معنا يا وين يا
هذا يجري
هذا تانيو أنا ما بصيرنا أنا ما برجعه هذا تانيو
وقرقارة أقولتنا اليوم إهلكنا أبوين وقرقارة قالتنا اليوم قاجر نرتين بدن تنقلهم وقرقارة متكن برمتهون دونيسي قعنا ويدين سن قيل حين راني جرحين قرا شدير طورا وقرقارة وقل حالتي ولا قليل يوني وقرقارة قوان ومني ورب قويسي قرات في قراني وخلي وحقص له وصله وقرك قاليه منه قرابي وقرقار أقول تنيو الكنافوي وقرقار قالي لشيو قوان أبوها لقوستي صمالي وقرقار قالي لشيو قوان أبوها لقوستي وقرقارا ما تدن قرار كيو قري لغا قاطي وقرقارا قيسي غيرين قرب نوي إنسان كان قيل كيشا وعند عيا من كان إنك قرب وقرقارا من كان نحوس يوم مرانا الإنسان وقرقارا صمالي ومتقات إنسان وقرقارا أقول تيو الكنافوري
قبل إذا هرت أنت الأخريس سوالا صرت إيرك تروما ولي ما كم بقى هرت وان هرنا ونجعي
وهذه كي صباح صحيح هذا
بس صرت هذا سؤال هرت كان
أيوة
وان بتوصل هذا
وحال توكل استغفر يا شيخ زيرو
كذا أي بقى هنا سكت
ساكنين هو كي براي
وحرام الله يبحر
رجل سوق ما اللي دمود إلهي قاعد لك ولي ما
أنا تجلسوا لا سؤال كسر هذا قبل يجينا ما شاء الله ذاتك النهي بما أنه ولي سلا الله رفع سنا لقد الله ما أنت وحاول يستاجلنا إن أنا وحاول نعذب بعد أوانت حترس مثلا إن عالمنا
وأنت
هذا هذا كان حتى لقد الله ونبحث كل مقالة ولا نوالديننا
Soomaalidu waa saas loo rafaaday kow wax qabta dadkiina iyo hubka iyo waxan aakhiradiin wax doonta
iyaga ma lagu garaacayna
idinka culumadina xagga masaajidooda idinka maar idinka saaqeynta yaqaan kow idinkana meelaha hubkada taw gabdhaha iyo waxan wada
bas weey anna waan ka dhaarnay Soomaaliya bas
waa noo sanadka
waa sanadka insha Allah ha
Okay. So now to round out our speakers program, we're going to ask Bonnie Copeland to come forward. And Bonnie is the manager of the Central Region Public Health Center for the County of San Diego Health and Human Services Agency. And she's worked in this field for more than 22 years with a variety of different ethnicities. She currently oversees the various clinic services and is responsible for a public health nursing program. I personally have run into Bonnie all over the community. She's always involved in some effort to really help people get the services that they need. So let's give a warm welcome to Bonnie.
You know, I have a lot of acts to follow here, but like Bob Montgomery, I do have to say I have a lot of friends in the room, and over here I call this my son, and I try to get him to finish his education, and over here is my community partner, and I know many of you, and it's just really an honor to be here. Bob told me that he was bringing notes with him, so I brought notes with me. If you know me, you know I can talk a lot, but I don't want to talk so much that I don't pay attention to the most important points. So I was asked to tell first a little bit about myself, about what made me interested in the refugee community. So I will say that when I was a young lass of 18, I grew up here in San Diego, but I did make a trip down to Mexico for a few months and worked really with, the idea was to go and help with some little youth program with some people that we knew. And at that time, I found out that not everybody has electricity. And if you want to see at night, you have to clean the kerosene glass. How many of you have done that? Yep. Clean the kerosene glass, and if you don't trim the wick, your flame won't be even. So I found that out. That was interesting. That was fun. I found out that even though the old clunker Ford I had seemed like not a very good car, that when I was down there, very few people had a car. I lived on the wrong side of the tracks, and I had a motorcycle that I could drive, but the two girls with me couldn't drive at all. And so we had some interesting experiences because we didn't have running water in the house that we had. So we had to go with a big 5-gallon thing and get water and bring it back. And if we wanted to take a shower, we had to stick it in a bucket. Anybody had to do that before? Bucket shower? Yeah, a few of you had to do that. So that was my first introduction to a different kind of a life. And what was fun about that too was I found out that even if my Spanish wasn't the best, that when we got together with other people, even though we didn't speak the same language, we could have a pretty good laugh just the same. And I'm always for a good laugh. Are you for a good laugh? Oh, yeah. That's part of the fun. Instead of getting worried and upset, we can just enjoy one another. So that was my first little venture to another country. Then the next place I went was Papua New Guinea, which is where I met my husband. I would have never met him otherwise because he, in fact, originates from New Zealand. So there I was in Papua New Guinea, finding out, again, just how things are so different. And when I got there, it was like everything was so green. I was from Southern California. Everything was green, and it all looked the same. And everybody else looked the same. I was white, and there were other Australians and different white people there, but otherwise everybody looked the same to me. Has anybody ever looked at us and said, all you white people look the same? I know it's true. I know it's true because until you get used to different kinds of people, they would say, well, the book of the black one. And I'm like, well, I thought everybody was black. But then I began to see, oh yeah, this one looks more Polynesian because Papua New Guinea has people that are so different from one another. People on the coast look so different from the people in the highlands, look so different from people on the islands. And I began to see those differences and to understand those differences, but there were other differences that were really just a fantastic experience for me because I was able to live sometimes in villages for a while. And you know it's a different life in a village. I already knew about kerosene lanterns and I already knew how to trim wicks, but I'd never really experienced some of the life of going out to the garden with the women in the morning. Has anybody, if you came from Somalia, did you garden? Or I know Somalia does a lot of herding and goats. But in the morning, the women would get their bag and they would head off for the day. And in the evening when they came back, they would have their string bag filled with stuff. And ladies, you know who does all the work in Papua New Guinea, right? So they would have the bag filled with things. They would have wood on top of the bag because how else are you going to cook your dinner, right? Wood, and then they'd have the kid, and they were loaded up. And you would spend the whole day there. And while you were there, you had all your friends with you. And something I think that when we come to a new country that we really long for is having all our friends there. In fact, don't people from here move back to Minneapolis? Who would go to Minneapolis? And people from Minneapolis come here. You go back and forth because you want to be where your friends and your family are. We all do. We long for our friends and family. So I found out about that friends and family, and tell me if there's anything different here too. I've sat on the steps of the village with some of my Papua New Guinea friends, and although I didn't speak their language, I spoke Pidgin English well enough that we knew what we were talking about. It's like, hey, there goes so-and-so. Yeah, and that's my cousin, and that's my aunt. And she's married to the bald guy that the snake bit last week. Anybody had a conversation like that? See, I do. So it's all about relations. And in fact, one of the things that we've done since being here is my husband and I had a wonderful opportunity. A gentleman came and volunteered with us at the Public Health Center, and then he worked with my husband with San Diego Hospice, and he drug in different relatives to help on some different projects, and now we call Ahmed our family. And in fact, Umi was here. Where's Umi? She's I just call her my relative. I have a few people, because the fun thing about once you have a relative, it's the same in Papua New Guinea, it's the same here. Once you have a relative, you have a whole lot of them. Now, I've been told that Umi says she has cousins she hasn't met. Well, I'm still waiting because I consider certain ones, Fatuna, you're my relative now. So it's really fun, because what I have found about working with Somali people is you guys are a lot of fun. You have a great sense of humor, and even though you've suffered much, you don't let it get you down. So when I came back to America, I've spent 10 years working at Children's Hospital, which is now called Rady's Children's. And then when I found out about public health nursing, I said, wow, you get paid to do this? Because I love the community. And as you've heard, I turn up when I can and where I can. And it's just, to me, the most wonderful thing to be in City Heights, where the world has come. If you walk up and down the streets, everybody's there. And it's just been just a delight for me. So what do I really have to talk about tonight besides my great life and how wonderful it is to get the opportunity to mix up with so many different wonderful people from different parts of the world? Well, we're here because HARO invited us to come and to talk about different needs. And as a nurse, I've worked with children and families. When I thought about how many years I've worked with children and families, I know in the little bio it says 21 years. That's not true. I'm not going to tell you how long, because I said to my husband, do you realize that I've been working with children and families as a nurse since? So it's a really long time. And I've worked in so many different circumstances and situations, because I did some nursing in Papua New Guinea. Before that, I worked in a clinic in Southeast San Diego. Once we were here as a nurse, I worked mostly at Children's in the emergency department, and I saw children who had traumatic events or children who were very ill. And then coming out in the community, we see something different in children. We see the trauma that children have experienced. And I believe that children need 3 things to be healthy and well-adjusted. The first thing they need is a secure attachment. The second thing they need is good nutrition. The third thing they need is safe places to grow up. So let me talk about secure attachment. I don't know if anybody has heard of what attachment is. Sometimes we hear of attachment disorders, but a secure attachment means that when a child was born, the mother fed the child, or the caregiver, the person who cared for that child, was there to feed the child, but not just feed the child. We know from studies and things that we have seen happen in the world, it's not just about the food. First of all, you have to have the food. Second of all, you have to have the interaction. And I have sat in a home with a teenage girl who had a new baby who said, I don't know what to do with my baby. I said, hold your baby, look at your baby, talk to your baby. You don't just put something in the baby's mouth and have that baby eat, because that's not what makes a secure attachment. A secure attachment is, I'm a baby, and when I cry, somebody cares enough to come and pick me up and hold me and love me and talk to me and carry me, and then I can grow and develop because I've developed that security. Then when I'm a little bit older, I'm not as afraid. I have more trust in the world because I've built a trusting relationship with my mom, my family, then I can go out in the world and I can learn to walk and I can explore and I can grow. And that's what a secure attachment is. And what we know is that people do not have a secure attachment. They're going to be fearful. They're not going to even be concerned about others. When people have an attachment disorder, they disassociate themselves. They don't make friendships. They don't succeed in their life because they don't know how to connect. So part of an important job that a mother has with a baby is to make a secure attachment. Secondly, good nutrition. You know, we say that good nutrition for a child starts when mom is pregnant. So if mom doesn't get all the vitamins and nutrients that she needs when she is pregnant and expecting a baby, that baby can suffer. In fact, I was just reviewing some information from UNICEF, and it said 17% of the babies born in Somalia have birth defects. So something didn't grow right. A common thing is maybe to have a neural tube defect. So in other words, your legs aren't going to work right, or you have hydrocephalus, or you have issues that could have been prevented if only mom would have had the right vitamins. Secondly, nutrition really affects brain development. Everybody, when Bob mentioned that 80% of people fleeing from the famine were women and children, if a child does not get adequate nutrition, their brain doesn't develop correctly, and you can't make that up. The first 5 years of life are so important, and if you didn't get what you need then, you can't really make it up. You can try, and you can do amendments, but so many key things happen, and we can all look and see, what does a baby learn to do? When you have a child, we watch them grow, but in a very short order, they learn to sit up, they roll over, they walk, they talk, they explore the world, and those things happen. Most babies walk between 9 months and 18 months, they're already walking. And if you haven't had the nutrition that you need to get there, well, you've already lost so very much. So that's the second thing, is good nutrition. And the next thing that babies need and children need is a safe place to grow up. So when we think about trauma and the things that happen to children and people, we know that you've probably all heard of Maslow and the hierarchy of needs. If you haven't, I'll just briefly say that he was a psychiatrist, and he said everybody needs to have enough food to eat, and everybody needs safety. These are just the basics, and we know amongst that is clean water too. So we need these very basic things, and think of that as a building block. On top of that comes the next thing, the interaction, and up here somewhere is poetry. So you think about the children in Somalia right now who are suffering, who don't have enough to eat. Their attachment is disrupted because they have been in war conditions, or they've been hungry, or they've been on the run. They haven't been able to settle in one safe place, and they've had violence and trauma. This affects their whole hierarchy of needs. So when they should be building on a safe and an opportunity to grow, they can't do it because it's stopped. It's stopped at safe, or it's stopped at we're not even getting enough food. So we never got off the first level. And when we think about the beautiful poetry we heard tonight, that's way up here. I already got enough food to eat. I had a secure attachment because now I am brave enough to be a young man who stands in front of a room full of people and doesn't mind sharing my poem and encouraging others. So that's when we've reached the best part of us. So what's happening in places like Somalia is the best part of us we're losing. So I wanted to say tonight that children need so much, and HARO has made a real effort. They've been reaching out and they've been bringing food, and if you've got some of their information, they've had a goat project, they've been bringing clothes, they've been working on water projects. But what they're recognizing is children are lost, they're left, they don't have parents anymore. And what is happening to these kids? The future of us, the future of Somalia is in the children. So if we aren't providing the children a safe place, and I have to say, it's not just $75,000 to build some kind of an orphanage, because children need more than just that safe place. So HARO and others are going to need continuing support to look at this terrible crisis. We've seen it, we've seen the children, we've seen the horrible pictures, we've seen what has happened there, and we know what it takes. What we know it takes is it takes secure attachment, it takes good nutrition. So the children who are going to go to that orphanage need to have caregivers who really get it and really care. Don't just feed them. It's not good enough to just feed them. We saw that in Romania. If you ever heard the news about what happened after the Iron Curtain fell, and we looked and we saw that there were orphanages in Romania where children were given food, but they weren't given care and affection. And they were very big, laying in cribs. And they had not developed because they didn't get the next thing that they needed. So the children are going to need secure attachment, some kind of parent figures who really care about them, who talk to them, who show them things, who have a positive interaction. They're going to need that opportunity to play, because children in intense situations don't get to play. So they need to play. They need the good food, so we're going to have to keep feeding them. And it's really great, the wonderful rice casserole, fabulous. And if that's what they get, that's what they need to get now. But they're going to need ongoing improved nutrition, which we're going to have to keep thinking of how we're going to be able to support this until Somalia is more able to take care of it themselves. And they're going to need safety in their streets. So I want to commend HARO for really picking up on a serious problem. And I want to think about our future, that the future of Somalia, as I said, really is the children. The future of any place is the children. And I just couldn't help myself. I'm glad I sat next to the imam, because I think that we've talked tonight also about God and the things that God expects us to do. And one of the things he expects us to do is care for children. And I don't know the Quran very well, but I found a verse. And it says that this is a married couple talking, and they both invoke Allah, their Lord. They say, if you should give us a good child, we would surely be among the grateful. And we know that children are a gift from God. And we have been given a gift of children in Somalia, but we're not caring for them. And I picked also a verse from Jesus said, let the little children come to me and do not hinder them, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these. That God has entrusted children to us. And maybe our children are near where we are. Maybe they're in Somalia, but we've been entrusted with children. We can't come here tonight and say, oh, I've heard about the children, and now we're going to go away. We can't do that. We've been entrusted. We need to really think about this, and we need to consider what can we give and how can we help HARO to meet the needs of children in a more substantial, ongoing way. Thank you very much.
One of the things that that Bonnie really brings to our attention is that the work that we're trying to do, HARO's trying to do, is really getting the orphanage, which is just a safe place for the young people but there's a lot more that HARO is going to be involved in doing to meet all of the needs. And we really need everybody's participation to really help make that happen. So we're going to talk more and more. Tonight's event is really just the beginning. It's launching an effort that we can work together to really make a big difference. But we're going to now ask Ali to come forward, and he's going to give us our closing comments. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. You don't know how I'm happy tonight. I'm very happy. And I would like to thank everybody who came to support HARO, Humanitarian African Relief Organization. This is actually our night, my night, and Sadiero night. And I'm very happy for your support. I cannot believe I was not expecting this number of community will attend this one, but we tried the best. And I want to thank all the organizations. Number one, our big sponsor, Proflower, and thank you very much. I also want to thank the other organizations who are table sponsors. There are many of them. I cannot count. I cannot say this, but please give them all the organizations who are the logos are there. They are the one who did this one to happen tonight. So please give them. My special thanks goes to Bob Montgomery. Bob Montgomery is my mentor, is my leader. He is the one who picked me up March 17 midnight from San Diego Airport, American Airlines. He was waiting me in front of American Airlines Terminal 2. I will never forget that. Bob also, he's the one who advised me or encouraged me to do this organization until we are here today. And thank you very much. That's what I will say tonight. And I'm happy to see you all.